Last time I mentioned that making clear and confident decisions is one of the keys to success in academic writing. But a lot of PhD students are scared to make decisions. You might be afraid that you'll make the wrong choice or you'll miss something the examiner wants to see, and so you might be tempted to delay making decisions by just putting everything on the page. But if you don't make decisions, it'll be unclear what you want to say, and then the reader will have to try to figure it out. So here's the secret. Your examiner wants you to make decisions. They don't want to read everything you can think of, and they don't want to have to figure out what it is you're trying to get across. They don't have a predetermined list of expectations for what you should cover. They want to know about your work, your argument, your interpretation, and they want you to decide what extra information is relevant to your project. And they probably also want to see something that they're not expecting, something that surprises them in some way, because that's much more interesting. Now, in writing, there are always countless possibilities, countless ways to express ideas, and countless ways to piece them together. So it's not always easy to make decisions, but it's important to make them anyway. Partly because you just have to if you ever want to get it finished, and partly because making one decision often makes subsequent decisions easier. Avoiding decisions by throwing everything at the page and just writing your way through and saying you'll sort it out later makes it much harder to edit your work, in part because you've trained that habit of avoidance, and in part because you haven't set any parameters for the work. If you haven't decided what the focus is, or what to include or what to leave out, all you're then doing when you're editing is moving stuff around and hoping that it somehow comes together. Now, as I mentioned in the last few videos, while I'm writing, I always take my time to think, to consider different options, and to take care over the writing. But I also make decisions and move forward. But then it's not just about decision making during the writing process. I'll also make some important decisions before I start. For example, before I started writing my PhD thesis, I decided to focus exclusively on my strengths. So as an experimentalist working in instrument development, I decided to give far more emphasis to the inner workings of the instruments I used and built rather than to theory. Effectively, I was choosing the ground I wanted to defend. So I decided to bring the examiners to the areas where I was the strongest, instead of drawing their attention to areas where I was weaker. I also decided that rather than trying to show how much I'd read, I would only cite the very best and most relevant sources I could find. Any individual paper had to be good enough to get into my thesis. And I also wouldn't cite anything that I hadn't read or understood. And if there was any doubt, I would leave a paper out. So these high-level decisions made many of the smaller, subsequent decisions much easier. Not always easy, some of them did still take a lot of thought, but at least a lot easier than they would have been. And crucially, I also decided to keep working on a section of writing until it was done before moving on. I wouldn't switch to working on another section just because I was stuck on this one. And this forced me to make decisions, but it also helped build my confidence as I found ways through the problems that I faced, and it gave me a sense of satisfaction seeing sections finished. So in the next video, I'll talk about how I go about solving some of these problems when I face a block in my writing. But if you like this video, you might also be interested in my upcoming 10-week online course on academic writing for PhD students, where we'll be covering these principles in a lot more detail, including plenty of examples and exercises, as well as live Q&A sessions and a community forum. So just click the link in the description below for more details. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.